Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about one of the biggest and most corporate movie studios there is today, the Walt Disney Company, of course. They've been known to make some pretty shitty, pretty social justice warrior inspired moves at their studio for a good long while now. First, there's their feminized and emasculated version of the Star Wars film series. Then there's similar influences and SJW references popping up all over their Marvel Cinematic Universe series as well now too. Most notably the Captain Marvel film from last year, and this year's upcoming Marvel movies look like they're going to be woke too. Both 2020 releases are being led by females. The later one, called The Eternals, which comes out in November, well, it's even boasting its first gay heroes, who have the first gay kiss and family on screen and everything. Can't wait. But today we're not here to talk about Star Wars or Marvel, both of which are owned by Disney, but no, this time we're turning back to talking about old-fashioned Disney and their recent trend of live-action rebooting their older and more famous animated properties. This is a phenomenon that actually happened last year quite a bit. For example, if I asked you how many live-action reboots Disney made last year, what would your guess be? 2, 3, 4 maybe? Well, actually, believe it or not, but Disney really pulled this live-action reboot trick 5 times in 2019, with the releases of Dumbo, Aladdin, The Lion King, Maleficent 2, or a sequel to Sleeping Beauty, and The Lady and the Tramp. And after last year's efforts didn't do so well in the reviews and ratings departments, well, you'd think Disney might want to reconfigure their plans going forward, but unfortunately for them, they already have their next live-action reboot on the way. Mulan is set to come out at the end of this month, and it's another project with another troubled story we're going to go over extensively today soon. Because if you hadn't heard, a lot of external circumstances are building up against Mulan, and some are even predicting this movie could lose money and become Disney's next big flop. More on that and the rest of this story soon too, but first, let's take a moment to check out our sponsors at Virtual Shield. In a recent news report, web browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and Safari have been sending users' browsing history and personal identifying information to external servers in a worrisome trend. Well, this is precisely why I use VPN services like the very trusted and affordable ones at Virtual Shield. Virtual Shield's VPN is the recommended choice to help you reduce any type of privacy risk from prying eyes on the internet. And now's never been a better time to join the Virtual Shield family because it's March Madness month there. And to celebrate, Virtual Shield is offering a special 30% off all VPN plans. Sign up for a free trial at Virtual Shield's VPN today and see what all the hype is about. You really have nothing to lose with this kind of free offer. Thanks for your time, and now back to the show. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's get back to today's Disney story. Before we get to Mulan specifically though, which has lots of new information on it, like how a current global health scare could be affecting its ticket sales, but first, let's talk about this live-action reboot trend at Disney and how it's becoming out of hand and increasingly more woke as well. You see, as mentioned earlier, live-action remakes hit a peak in 2019. 5 different versions of this in one calendar year can certainly seem like things are getting out of control on its own. Then you gotta consider how the 2 biggest ones of this bunch, the Aladdin and Lion King remakes, well, they might have made good money, but they certainly failed to impress audiences very much, if at all. The best thing you could say about these new movies is they're okay to watch, especially if you like the original animated features, but that's also kind of the problem too, since none of these live-action remakes live up to the originals at all. And quite frankly, they're unnecessary remakes that just seem like money grabs if we're really being honest. Then you gotta factor in woke things like the progressive casting choices happening time and time again and the surrounding SJW drama, and well, these projects are certainly becoming more and more worrisome. Examples of that include the leftists getting mad that one white guy was cast in the Aladdin movie last year. He was a character that was some king vying to be Jasmine's husband, but liberal activists online said that since Aladdin is set in the Middle East, no white characters were allowed whatsoever, not even one. Pretty absurd, I know, and something that wouldn't fly the other way around, but this is the racist anti-white world we're living in today. And similar issues have come up with The Lion King's casting as well. There, Disney tried to get woke with it too, making most of that cast black people since the movie is set in Africa. But as many of us pointed out at the time, the movie is also made up of talking lions and animals, so considering the races of the voice actors playing anthropomorphic lions in an African-based tale that's a children's movie no less, well, this is becoming quite ridiculous. And this finally brings us back to talking about Mulan again. Last summer, I made my first video about the project when the first trailer came out, and I pointed out how bad the timing was for it and its trailer's release. As mentioned earlier, it's really awkward for Disney to be pushing this after so many of its 2019 seen live-action reboots fail last year. In addition, other announcements about other future live-action remakes have had troubled responses too. For example, The Little Mermaid is the next classic Disney animation to get this treatment, it getting a live-action remake sometime soon too. But for The Little Mermaid, Disney chose to take an interesting turn with their casting choices. Instead of staying local and accurate and true to the movie's setting and premise, like what Disney did with Aladdin, Lion King, and Mulan, well, instead, with The Little Mermaid, well, the mermaid's getting blackwashed. Yes, The Little Mermaid is going to be a half-black, no-name actress because while Disney respects Middle Eastern, African, and Asian cultures, white ones which produce stories like The Little Mermaid, well, as Rodney Dangerfield would put it, we can't get no respect. Speaking of casting, these high-profile Disney projects do always tend to have some sort of story or controversy based on this topic, and the upcoming Mulan release is certainly no different. For example, one of the biggest and most upsetting stories going around about this picture now is the exclusion of a previously well-liked character from the original movie, him being taken out for reasons related to the currently going on Me Too movement. Now this is going to take a bit of explanation to spell out, and then we can respond and talk about why it's so wrong. So to get us started, let's get some more information on this Me Too casting choice by checking out an article from Jezebel called "Producers Dropped a Character from the Mulan Remake Because of Me Too." This should be good, or rather, it sounds like a really bad caving in kind of choice, but let's read on anyway and see where this goes. The live-action remake of Mulan is shaping up to be pretty good, if you say so. Not only does the trailer look promising, but producers have wisely decided to drop what seems like an unnecessary and possibly problematic character, Mulan's male commander, General Li Shang. In the 1998 animated version, Li Shang develops a bond with Mulan's male alter ego, Ping. After she's revealed to be a woman, the two have dinner together, but producer Jason Reed told Collider that, given the current political climate, it seems smart to have Li Shang sit this one out. I think particularly in the time of the #MeToo movement, having a commanding officer that is also the sexual love interest was very uncomfortable, and we didn't think it was appropriate, he said. We split Li Shang into two characters. One became Commander Tong, who serves as her surrogate father and mentor in the course of the movie. The other is Hong Wei, who is Mulan's equal in the squad. Well, sounds like Disney has gotten themselves into quite the pickle here. On one hand, they want to be these pro-liberal, progressive, supporting Me Too style listen-in believers, believing all women of course. But that SJW mindset inevitably conflicts with the real world. Particularly, it's hard to be artistic and tell real-world stories without ruffling a few feathers like this, to say the least. This is why a number of high-profile Disney-related projects have opted to not have love interest in their films at all. Captain Marvel was a movie that noticeably didn't have a love interest for its female lead either just last year, and this of course bucks a trend we've seen in Marvel and other superhero movies for ages, since like forever. There's always usually some kind of romantic interest for the leads in movies like this. It makes the characters more interesting and grounded and realistic and compelling. Not to mention, seeing the hero get the girl or guy at the end is always a nice finale and a cherry on top of a good story. But these days, because of movements like Me Too, romance is more rigid now, especially when things happen at a workplace. Now, applying this to Mulan is even more ridiculous because it's a tale from hundreds of years ago about a girl pretending to be a boy, joining the Chinese army, and then falling in love with her co-worker, among other crazy circumstances. But now, since women are accusing men of inappropriately flirting and touching them at office jobs in current year, well, that means a soldier from the Middle Ages in the remake of an animated Disney story for kids, well, they can't have a romantic interest anymore. Pretty ridiculous, and it's a bad move bordering on something that could ruin or at least change up the Mulan story enough to make it too different. Not to say these remakes shouldn't mix things up somewhat, they don't have to be exact copies of the originals because that's a bad idea too, but removing love interests, that's not a good idea certainly, especially for this kind of epic storytelling. And the reasons it's getting removed are certainly not favorable either, and it's just another thing that could derail this whole project. Speaking of things derailing this Mulan release, well, caving into woke Me Too movements is not the only issue. Also, in addition, Disney has a whole other situation that's greatly influencing their bottom lines this year. As most of you probably already know, many are talking about this ongoing health scare that's spreading across the globe, getting sickness everywhere. I haven't covered it much directly because I really don't want to cause more panic or fear-mongering. And also, I hear you can get flagged or demonetized for just mentioning this new fast-spreading medical emergency. So for this video's sake and my own, let's just use the sickness's initials and call the new ailment CV for short. CV has been a trending story and worry for many people out there, particularly in places near to or within China, where this issue started. In fact, nowadays much of China's biggest places, including movie theaters, they're all closed for the time being. And of course, Mulan could suffer greatly because of this, because not only are most, if not all, major Disney releases relying on China to help make them the big bucks, but also Mulan in particular is a Chinese-based story, so surely its makers were hoping to do even better in China than others. But now that whole market could be unreachable, and it could spell disaster for Disney and its Mulan movie release. An article from The Observer has more details. It's called "Outbreak Could Force Disney's Mulan Out of China Entirely." That doesn't sound too good. Let's see where else this goes. The CV outbreak has wrought havoc on Disney's bottom line, particularly in China. The Magic Kingdom is estimated to be losing a combined $280 million per quarter due to the closures of its Shanghai and Hong Kong theme parks. Now its live-action Mulan remake may be pulled from the Middle Kingdom as the country's 70,000 movie theaters largely remain closed. While a delay of its Chinese premiere date, March 27th, was expected, The Independent is now reporting that a complete removal from the release schedule is possible. Disney President of Production Sean Bailey said the company is looking at the situation day by day. With a reported $200 million budget, Mulan marks Disney's most expensive live-action remake, losing China, the second biggest box office region in the world, $9.2 billion in 2019, hurts no matter how you slice it. I assume that slice is a pun on the swords used in Mulan. Well done. And yes, it looks like now, even if Mulan does make it to parts of China, this whole scare thing could never clear up in time to get people back to the movie theaters by then. So if you combine Mulan losing the China market and removing well-liked characters due to woke reasons, well, we're starting to see why this release could be less and less likely to succeed. Other problems worth noting here too are, for one, another character named Mushu was removed from the live-action remake too. Mushu was the talking dragon voiced by Eddie Murphy in the original, and he was great comic relief, but given the fact that the live-action Mulan has a more serious tone, it does make sense that they're not squeezing in a talking, joking dragon. But at the same time, this is another well-liked character not making it to the new film. And another feature that doesn't seem to be part of the live-action remake is the musical elements. Apparently, Christina Aguilera, the singer, will be performing something in the film somehow, but it's also clear this live-action remake of Mulan will not be a musical like the original either, opting for a more serious, dramatic, warlike tone. That's actually the first live-action remake that's PG-13 for Disney too. Take that as a good or bad sign, up to you, but I think all these changes seem to be for the worse, and they're spelling disaster for this project before it can even come out. Last thing worth mentioning before we wrap things up is the actress actually playing Mulan. She's been involved in a number of her own controversies leading up to this release as well. She seems like a fine girl too, who looks like she's doing well in the trailers, but if only the new Mulan girl could keep her politics to herself a bit more. Apparently she has the SJW and Disney approved talking points because they're clearly letting her go off on things in public, like talking about CV, and more worrying, Mulan has come out supporting the police in Hong Kong. Yes, this past August when the protesting in Hong Kong was peaking, Mulan decided to side with the authoritarian communists there, who were seen overly policing its people, controlling them and arresting them brutally. Hong Kong has been trying to get more independence and freedom lately a lot too, but China has been locking them down more and more each passing week, and anyone with any common sense would be taking the Hong Kong and the citizen side, but this new Mulan girl chose to side with the brutal and communist police state that is China, which really says a lot. Perhaps this is her trying to pander to the Chinese and hoping her movie does well there, but now that the CV thing has possibly derailed that whole release, who knows if this was even necessary? And who knows if this project will even end up making money? What do you guys think? Will Disney's new live-action remake of Mulan be able to overcome all this adversity? Are people even that interested in the Mulan story to begin with? I know that this was most people's least favorite Disney movie from the 90s, at least for me. And with that said, it looks like Disney is not only running out of ideas, they're also running out of old ideas to remake and repackage. Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button to help support this channel, and we'll see y'all next time.